Safia, and I am the author to the New Creations blog. I'll be hosting the roundtables discussion for my blog, and the whole idea of the New Creations project is simply just to get young adults to share their personal experiences and what it is to have that Christian lifestyle and how they're able to balance that out with their day-to-day activities. So you're going to be hearing from Jake, Sylvia, and Sam, and they're going to give their own personal experiences, how they incorporate being a Christian with their day-to-day activities. I hope you guys are inspired from this conversation and you learn a lot from it. So I'm just going to start off with a brief introduction from you guys. Just, tell me what you do, what universities you go to, if you have a job, your hobbies, and just, explain when you started your relationship with Christ. What triggered you to make that decision? I'd start from Jake.
All right. Hi. So my name is Jake. I attend Columbia University, but not for very long because I'm graduating next week, actually. So I'm from Ghana and I'm 23, which is really old when I think about it, but it's okay. So hobbies. Actually, somebody was asking me about that today. I don't really have that many hobbies. My I work out. I like to lift weights and stuff. So I guess that's my hobby. But I make time for it. I don't do it in my spare time. So I
Mm.
guess it's part of my life more than like my hobby. Um, when did I start my relationship with Christ? That's a really interesting question. I really like. I'm kind of jealous of people that have their birthday spiritually. Like people that know the day they started a relationship with Christ. I don't really remember the dates like when it really started. I remember I was really young though. I was like 10 years old or something. And my mom and I went to this church, and I don't even know what was preached or anything. They're like, who wants to give their life to Christ? And I was up in the front, and my mom was so shocked because she didn't understand why, like what I'd heard or what like had really done that to me, and I don't understand, and I didn't understand at that point why she was so shocked because I was like, well, I can make decisions for myself, but I have a little brother that is 10, and if he decided to give his life to Christ, and I'll be like, what do you know about that? But it's just really interesting that that happened then. And I mean, it's not always been like a perfect relationship. It's still not a perfect relationship, but it's one that it's like I've been fortunate enough to have a consciousness of Christ and like consciousness of God in my life from a really young age. And I think that that really guided me along the path and has really helped me. So I've grown a lot, obviously, over the years, but I don't really remember one day that and why I particularly made the decision, but I know that it's been the best decision I've ever made.
Great, brilliant. Okay, Sam, what do you think? What are your
Just answering the questions too.
Yeah, just
Okay.
answer the questions.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, my name is Sam. I'm an actress. I study at Rose Bruford, which is a drama school here based in London. I really, really enjoy it. It's amazing. I'm 21 years old, and Christ, I love it. But yeah, I was about I would say 14, 15, and I had just come back from Dominican Republic, and I was really angry at my parents' divorce, and I was, leading this like adult life. I was hanging around with people older than me, and I went to a party, and I met this guy there, and I was trying to flirt with him, but he wasn't having it. Instead, he kept telling, "Do you want to come church with me?" And I was like, "I don't really want to come church." And he was like, "No, no, no, come church. I think you'll really enjoy it." And I was like, I don't know. If you pick me up. And he was like, yeah, 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 I'll pick you up. And I was like, he's not going to pick me up, so that'll be fine. And then he actually picked me up, and
Oh,
we went,
wow.
and I mean, it took a while. I kept going, but Christ is so amazing, and I gave my life to God, and I will never go back. The best
Aw.
decision I've ever made in my whole entire life.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Sylvia, just introduce yourself and yeah, follow the questions.
Okay, hi, I'm Sylvia. I'm in Cardiff University studying medicine. I'm in my fourth year now, so almost done. Thank God, it's been a journey. I'm 21 years old, and my hobbies are, well, I write. I have two blogs, and I'm also into music. I sing as well. Um, when I have the time. But when did I start my relationship with Christ? Like Jake, I don't really have a spiritual birthday. I know that from a very young age, I had a strong awareness of God and a real curiosity, a kind of childlike faith in Christ as well. And I was really interested by the cross and what it meant and the gospel. And then I became a teenager and went wayward. I had a lot of things happen in my life at the time which made me really angry with God, and I lost my faith a bit in him. And I began to struggle with Jesus, the concept of Christ. It wasn't until I came back to London, because we'd moved to Ghana when I was 5, and I came back from my A-levels. And being in boarding school by myself and having a different type of freedom gave me a lot of experiences, a lot of opportunities to grow, and a lot of time to think through why I felt the way I did about God, about Jesus, about Christianity in general. And I would say I began my relationship with Christ, if I had to put a sort of time period on it, I'd say it was when I came to university in 2010. Seems like ages ago. But yeah, 2010 is when sort of things culminated and I ended up on this journey that I'm on. This amazing journey.
Great. Oh, that's really nice to hear from you guys. I'm just going to dive into a bit more like personal questions. And by the way, if someone says something, like, feel free to like laugh. Don't worry that it's live or anything. So yeah, next question. So ever since you began your relationship with Christ, do you feel that it's prevented you from being as sociable as you used to? We can start from Sam. Do you think that has been the case?
Yeah, but I think for me, in a good way. I mean, I was really hanging around with the wrong people. I was drinking when I was 12, even at 10. You know, I had a boyfriend, and I wasn't, listening to my parents, and I was angry. I mean, in a good way. Now I can hang around with people, and I know where my limits are. I know what I should and what I shouldn't do, and it isn't God saying, "Oh, you can't do this," but it's because He loves us, and there are rules or things that He says because He cares for us and cares for us, and if we follow them, then we'll be safe. He doesn't want us to be in a situation where we won't be safe. That's what I think.
Wow, that's great. Jake, what do you think? Has it made you less sociable?
I think I've gone through different phases of my walk with God. I think that it's important to realize that at certain points in your walk with God, you believe certain things, and God gives you clearer visions, and then you begin to understand more about who you are and who He has made you to be and what you're called to do. And so for me, there was a point at which like I had to take a break from people and from being sociable, but it wasn't because God didn't want me particularly to be sociable, but He was trying to teach me how to be the best version of me in a social setting. And so it hasn't prevented me at all. I find myself going out a whole lot more now that I'm in this a much deeper relationship with God, and it's really giving me God's I've really come to learn God's heart for people. And so it was like last week I was out at this club, and I just stopped and I looked around at everyone, and I was like, Jesus loves every single person here. And it just made me so excited, that no matter what people are doing, no matter how much they don't know Him or they don't even want to get to know Him, He loves each and every one of them there. And it just made me want to let my light shine, at that point. And letting your light shine, sometimes I think we think of it to we make it a job rather than like a state of being, and so when I got released from that mentality of holding myself back and realizing that you can actually go with God to wherever you go, I realized the limits on my sociability went away. But then at the same time, I do have my preferences. I do have things that like me and God know these are my no-go areas. These are the places I would not like to go because I do not particularly have the equipment to deal with the kinds of people I'll encounter there, or even some conversations that I do not feel like I can represent God well on, so I will not speak on. But if I do, I don't feel like at that moment my relationship with God is tainted or tarnished. I just feel like God is like, okay, Jake, now you see why we've been discussing this for a while and stuff like that. So it doesn't limit me, but it definitely like gives me a new perspective when I'm out with people.
It's pretty cool. Sylvia?
I would say that, interesting enough, it's more that God challenges me to be more sociable than I'm naturally inclined to be. I think after I began my relationship with Christ, a lot of things that I used to enjoy doing, I just didn't enjoy doing anymore, and it was almost as if a veil had been taken off from over my eyes, and I suddenly saw things very differently to how I used to, and that interest that I had in those things just wasn't there. And so with certain things, it wasn't that I no longer desired to be sociable, but it was more that the people I used to be sociable with, I didn't have as much in common with. And so that was like two very different aspects. But then as I grew, because I needed that time of kind of being alone and learning to allow God to move, just have private time with Him. It was like going from that season to then God bringing me out and being like, go out, go back outside, okay, go back and make the effort, okay, learn about people, see how much I care for them, share with them, grow with them, love them. And that was an amazing point to get to, from the point where I'd been like, well, I don't enjoy doing things, maybe this means I should be alone, to then realizing that God wanted me to also push boundaries, go out of my comfort zone and stuff like that. So I'd say like Jake said, it's very much about seasons. Depending on who you are, what your purpose is, the stage you're at in your life. And both seasons are very, very important, very essential to our growth. So yeah, for me, that's what it is. It's more that God challenges me to go beyond myself.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really great. Like how, all three of you have different perspectives. For Sam, it was more of, when you gave your life to Christ, you stopped hanging around the wrong people and you realized what was good for yourself. And then with Jake, it's actually crazy because you feel God has put you in a position where it's like, you know what, go out, engage with these people, do more things and represent who Christ is, being in a social setting, which is really difficult to do. And like with you, Sylvia, like, I can relate to what you said about how you started to see things differently, because I know that's my own experience as well. Like I started to see things differently, and the things that would excite me just don't really excite me anymore. The things that I would want to be involved in and, wanting to just be at the center of attention of every single thing, and just the wrong attention, it just didn't excite me. And it's like your mind just is renewed, like your whole being is just renewed, like the way you think, the way you see people, the way you act, the way you even carry yourself, like it's just a completely different change, and it's just beautiful. That's why I called this project A New Creation, because I feel when we have that experience, like something is just born inside of us, like a new life is born inside of us. But moving on to other questions, you guys are actually great because you're pretty much answering everything before I even ask you those questions. So they might be a bit repetitive, but I was just going to say, how do you deal with, like, let's say friends who don't necessarily have the same beliefs as you, and this person is like your really close friend? How do you deal with that? How do you handle that without being very overwhelming and being so Jesus person? How do you deal with that? Sam?
For me, it's just being myself and like what I've found in Christ, and just trying to represent Him the best I can. And funny enough, I do have a friend that I did really, really want him to come to Christ, and I spoke to him about it, and I wasn't being like overwhelming or anything, but just I really wanted to share it, because if you have a gift, someone's giving you a gift, and you will want that other person to also receive a gift like that, a gift that you've really appreciated. and he just last year he ended up giving his life to Christ, and
Wow.
that was amazing. And just being in constant prayer all the time, and yeah, just being you. I mean, God changes us, and God makes us more attractive to other people. I think there's the key, just being you, in the new you, the new person that God's made you now that you've accepted Him.
Great, Jake.
Yeah. So for me, I realize now that I have a lot more friends that do not share my beliefs than I do people that do, right? And but what I realized about that, also because my school is in the middle of New York City, and like, you know, we have like, it's so interfaith and also very atheist, you know. But I've come to meet so many people that I love so much that do not share my beliefs. And what I realized about them is, the first thing is that Jesus loves them more than I love them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Jesus died for them. And so it becomes less about trying to convert someone to something, you know. Like I've done the various things, like taking people to church. I've done all those things, and they are all like very amazing. But I realized that God works, right? I think that the best way to represent God, as Sam was saying, is to just be yourself in Him, you know. And people are attracted to that, because the people that I haven't necessarily said the Jesus thing to, but then they come around me and they're like, oh, I like your energy, or I like this, and then at that point you can slip something in to plant a seed, because the seeds are what's important. God makes those things grow, but our job is to plant the seeds and to allow Him to water them in His own time, and with His own method, and going through His own process, because we are not the good news. We are not the salvation. We are just representatives here that have a role to play. And so I always, when I get overwhelmed with how far off someone else is, I just realize that God works and God does His thing in His time, and I just need to be responsible with my part of living my life and making sure that I am always there for them, and I show them the love of Christ in the most practical ways. Because I think I heard this quotation that I really like, which is that preach the gospel, if necessary, use words, because our lives preach. Like, you know, sometimes I think a lot of us are so addicted to speaking without realizing that our lives preach. And so I have in recent times come to adopt that aspect of it, or try to develop that bit more, that I should allow my life to preach, even my weaknesses, even my struggles. I want all those things to preach.
Awesome. Sylvia, what do you think?
I agree with both Sam and Jake. I think also a massive stumbling block for a lot of Christians, especially when you're beginning to walk with Christ, is to forget that the mission is to love, full stop, and not for you to save. And I think when you start to think, oh, I'm here to save people. If I don't talk to that person today, right now, they're not going to get saved, and that's bad. And there's this kind of feeling that I know I struggled with, and almost sort of personal condemnation. If, for instance, I shared the gospel with someone, or I mentioned Jesus and they took it the wrong way and they weren't interested, and no, they didn't want to come with me to church, I took it quite personally, because I hadn't yet understood that it's not just about sitting with someone and being like, hey, let me talk to you about Jesus. Sometimes it's about how your life reflects that you found a love that's completely different to anything else you've experienced. And people at times need to see that we are human. People at times need to see that we are just like them. That we have similar kind of, sometimes we go crazy, sometimes we're down, sometimes we're human. But that there's something that kind of enhances our lives, and that we want to share with them. I think that's the first thing, recognizing that there's a mission to love, and that's what you need to remember. And also a mini story. When I was, I think this was 2 years ago or something, I was very much in this, I need to get everyone to come to church with me. You know, I'm not forgetting one single person. We're going to church. And some of my friends, there was this new church that had come into town. I'd never been there. And some of my friends were like, fine, we'll come with you. And I don't know why I didn't really take them to a church I'd been to before. But anyway, we went to this church, and it was very different to the sort of church I'd go to. So I was sitting there surprised and thinking, God, I thought we're meant to bring you to church. This isn't really, you know, what I'd bargained for. And then they were very much like, this is weird. This is not cool. What is happening? And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And it was just a mess. And I just thought, hey, but I thought you're meant to just, you know, you ask people to church. That's the thing you do. That's the mission. That's the point. And it had backfired. And it was after that I started to think, wait, what is what have I got wrong? What have I misunderstood? You know. And so I think a lot of people could probably relate to that kind of feeling. And also, like, it's good to remember as well, like, you can learn from people as well. Not obviously we have a strong belief in what Jesus did on the cross, and we believe that's the only way. But from a human perspective, when you approach people saying that I have my beliefs that are strong and that I believe will change your life as well if I can share them with you, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say. I think that makes a huge difference as well, because we don't have just people who are humanists or atheists, but people who maybe are Muslim, people who are Buddhist, people who have grown up with different kind of core beliefs that they're not going to just chuck out the window. Just like that, you know. Sometimes it helps to sit and listen, and then to not always think that the best way is to argue, but to challenge and to learn, to be open, you know, and pray that the Holy Spirit guides you with how to kind of interject. I think that's really important. So
that's great. I love everything you guys have
said. And just to add to what, can I just add to what Sylvia said?
Uh-huh.
Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I remember
someone, I'll be back.
Someone saying that.
Cool.
All right. I remember someone saying that, you know, no one is argued into faith. You know, like, hardly ever is anyone argued into faith. But, you know, you can love people. People are loved into faith. I realized that I had a better impact on people when I allowed them to be them, and I was myself with them, and we were ourselves together, and they started to engage more with what I believed in, and I also started to engage more with who they were. So when you get to know people, you know how to bring Christ to them, you know, and I think that's also really important, because we all accepted Christ in our different situations and with our different mentalities and everything. Jesus met us there. So sometimes when I'm trying to bring the gospel to people, I feel like I want to know them, know what they are into, know the kind of things that they, and let them understand that Jesus is also into that. You know, Jesus is into music, Jesus is into acting, Jesus is into, you know, all these things. Like, Jesus meet them there, and, you know, just the same way he came down, like, to earth to actually be a human being like us, to, you know, walk through what we're going through. He's still in that business, and I like to meet people where they are and bring Jesus to them there, rather than, you know, pulling them out of that context, because it's very difficult, especially for people that have not experienced anything like church or something before, to get someone to go out of their comfort zone to do that. You know, it's the same way, like, if you invited me to, like, some meditation thing at some Buddhist place, I would find it difficult going, because it was, like, you know, so out of anything, you know. And so somehow I tried to, like, take myself out of what are this person's needs, and if I wasn't so sold on my ideas, how would someone convince me to, you know, go try a new thing out, and then in that way I use that method with them.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
actually awesome. I love everything you guys have said. Sam talking about, just being yourself, and there's this attraction that comes with that, and how it's just about, loving people. All of you cover the topic of loving people.
Yes.
And Jake, the phrase you used, loved into faith, that's so powerful. I've never actually heard that before, but it's so crazy because we tend to forget as Christians that we were once in that place that these people are in. So we always think that we know, we know what's right for them, we know what's best for them, and then we find ourselves like, why can't you just act this way? Why can't you just do this? Why are you still gossiping? Why are you still chasing guys? You just get irritated. Like, I know that as me, like I can be quite impatient, but sometimes I just find myself just like, actually, Zeph, you were there not that long ago. So why are you playing holier than thou card? And people start running away from you when you have that attitude because they think they know you. It's like, actually, you want that perfect. You used to do this and this. So where's all this God business coming from? And it's really discouraging, and you feel like you're not making an impact. From everything you guys have said about just loving people, getting to know them better, not running away from them, but just, the life that you live is a representation. So also being in a social setting, but I don't know, knowing your boundaries. Like Sam, you mentioned that, all three of you have mentioned that, knowing your boundaries. So, which actually covers the next question I'm going to ask. So like, I don't know if you were at a party and people were like doing drugs or something, like maybe before you would have done that because to you it wasn't a big deal then. But now, like, you just being a new being, it's just like, actually, that's a no-go for me. So just knowing your boundaries and let people just copy that. And it's like, wow, you mean you can still be at a party and not do drugs and tell everybody no? Like, I think that's just an amazing thing. So this goes on to the next question. I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on drinking and going clubbing? Like, do you guys blend in like chameleons? Like, if for girls, like if someone is twerking, will you twerk that and show everybody you can dance and all of that? Or I don't know, would you like run away from that, be like, oh my God, no, I don't twerk, that's whatever? Or do you just not say anything? Like, what are your thoughts on drinking and clubbing? Sylvia, you go first.
The twerking bits made me laugh. I think a lot of people have asked me, like, is it okay to drink? Isn't it bad to drink? And for me, usually the first point is to go to the Word and to see what God says about whether it's drinking or whatever. I know twerking's not in the Bible, but let's talk about the other stuff first. I feel personally that I drink on occasion, like socially, but never not usually to get drunk, because I know that for me, being drunk it's sinful because it opens the gate to so many problematic things. It's definitely an area of weakness that I know is not where God would want me to place myself. Sorry, my battery is running out again. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to plug it in again. So if you could do someone else, and I'll come back.
Okay, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, again, it just comes down to representation. You're representing Christ, so you just need to find your boundaries. I mean, I do drink, but I never drink to get drunk, because when you're drunk, then anything can happen. You're not fully intact with all your senses. Drugs, no go. But again, how do you handle a situation like that? You have to do it through love. If you have a friend that is doing drugs, then you should say to them in a loving way. I don't think you should do that, because even without mentioning Christ into it, it's bad for their body. It's bad for them. Again, it's just down to representation. I mean, you're representing Christ, and anything.
It's so choppy now.
Yeah.
Make him, make you look vulnerable or in a state where we're set to be a part of the world. We love them and we have to be with everybody else in the world, but we have to be apart because we have to set a different pathway. Everybody is walking on a straight line, and you can choose to walk in that straight line, or you can start a new line, which is a better line. So again, it's just about putting your foot down and being used. mean, once you know Christ, then you know. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes. We all do make mistakes. But just finding that in you and saying, you know what, I want to be different because I know what Christ has done in me, and I just want to show love. And me being drunk, I don't think I would be able to show his love in that way. Because then it becomes just about me.
Yeah.
That's what I think, yeah.
Cool. Jake. Jake? Okay, I think Jake is frozen. Yeah, so we might have to, let me just type in the chat. I don't know if
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I'm frozen.
Oh no, you're fine now.
You're fine now.
Yeah.
Oh no. Am I okay now?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I just live by. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I think. Okay, I think for me, I live by this saying, which is really funny, but it's cool. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life of the party,
Okay.
and it just makes me remember like that a party is not a party until like you are representing Jesus, that you are there with Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, no, we can get
Oh, you can hear me.
um yeah.
So yeah, I think we live like Jesus, right? And so make sure that Jesus, I'm going out. No, throughout my day, wherever I'm doing, Jesus is with me. And so me and Jesus get ready for parties together. We go to the party together. We hang out with people together and everything. And Jesus saying water into wine, all that good stuff. But you know, and there's a at every point in time there's work to do. Now, why I don't get drunk when I go out, and why I try to drinking properly, which is an important thing to do, is that we need to realize that if it's not fun in the morning to God about it happily in the morning, then you shouldn't be doing it in the night.
Oh no, he got cut off. Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Probably I'm gonna try and add him back really quickly. And
Okay.
see. Yeah. But no, the things that both Sam and Sylvia, things that you guys have said have been amazing. The whole drinking thing and going out clubbing. I mean, for myself, I would say it's something that I'm still kind of like struggling with, if I'm being honest, because I do go out and I'm not the kind of person to be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna go clubbing or anything. I do go out. I would say things that have changed about me, you know, and this is just from last year, not even from when I became, or like, you know, I decided to give my life to Christ just recently. It's just maybe the way I would portray myself when I'm dancing. Like that's something that I've put into perspective, and I'm just like, okay. There's nothing wrong with dancing, but at the same time, if I'm dancing in such a way that people are thinking at the back of their heads, look at this girl, tomorrow she's going to talk to us about Jesus, then I don't blame them for thinking that way, because it's me portraying myself in that light. And that's something that I just had to learn and just sit down and think for myself. The drinking thing, I agree with all of you about, you know, there's nothing wrong with drinking as long as you don't get drunk. For me, again, it's still something I struggle with, because I need to just I find that like if I drink one drink or I have another, I'm a lightweight. So even with me just trying to restrict myself just on a drink or two, I would already feel drunk, and this is me just saying, yeah, I'm controlling my drinks. So then it makes me question, should I not even be drinking if drinking 1 or 2 glasses is going to make me feel tipsy and out of order? So I think that's just something I really need to think about. But Jake seems to be back on, so he can finish off.
Okay.
Jake.
After Jake talks, I'll go back to what you were just saying about like dancing.
Okay, cool. It says that he's back on. Hopefully he's still there.
Yeah.
Jake, can you hear us? No? Okay, no problem. Yeah, Sylvia, carry on with your point.
Something that I kind of, for some reason, took me a long time to kind of grasp was that everyone is different. Especially when we... Oh, Jake.
We can hear you.
Jake?
No, okay, it's not working.
But I just heard him laugh. So confusing. Everyone is different. We all have different areas of our lives that God is working on at one particular time. And
but I'm closing my browser
different, like you're
calling again.
No problem. Yeah, so we'll carry on.
Different, for example, you said you're a lightweight, so different tolerance for alcohol. That's biologically, we're just different. And I feel like when you start to walk with Christ, he really moves on the Holy Spirit really moves on your desires, and when you're in a place that you shouldn't be in, you know immediately that, no, I should not be here. And at times it doesn't make sense. But as you grow, you realize that God loves me and he's telling me that this isn't the place for me because I'm especially weak in these areas that another Christian might not struggle with. And so when I became Christian and started growing in my faith, when people I was like, no, not going out. That's just completely out of the question. How dare you ask me if that kind of thing. It was quite like a self-righteous thing, because logically to me, it was not the place that I felt I should be in, because of obviously weakness and influences. And when I'd hear about Christians who were going out, I'd almost be outraged and be like, why are they going out? Why are they kind of double, what's the word? There's a double something word.
Double standards.
Yes, double standards. But I mean, thank God for his glorious patience and his long-suffering nature, because I look back on myself then, and I thank him for the grace to have grown to realize that God's Spirit isn't limited by anything. And just because I myself felt at that time that I didn't want to be in those situations, but it wasn't necessarily because I felt God was saying don't go there. It was because I felt religiously that of course I shouldn't be there. God isn't going to be there, so why should I be, And I feel like Christians who were going into those environments at that time had that, well, some of them might not have, but I do believe in my heart that some of them might have felt that I need to be in here because God is still in this place and there's work to be done. There are people to speak to. And so you'd have Christians in the club, you'd have Christians outside the club, Christians handing out water to clubbers. We're all different, and there's different positions, different places that God wants us to be in. And I think it's really important when asking ourselves these questions and answering them to be completely real with ourselves. Question why we think it's wrong to be in a certain environment. Is it because we think God is weak, or because we realize that we are weak? And I think that helps you to answer for yourself, not according to anyone else's standards, but according to God's standard and his move in your life. So
that's great. Yeah, I love everything you guys have said. I was gonna ask Jake a question in terms of relationships, because he's a guy, and I think it's quite rare to have a lot of guys come out and be open about their faith, because it doesn't, I don't know, maybe to them it doesn't look as cool. I think it's not going to score points with girls. So I was actually gonna like focus on asking him some questions, but until he signs back on properly, I'm gonna just start with Sam and just ask you, what are your thoughts on dating guys that are, non-Christian? Is it a thing for you to date people that are Christian or non-Christian?
Um, I've dated someone who's not a Christian in the past, and it didn't work out, and I knew what the word said. Because it's like if you have a chair, you're on the chair, and this person is constantly trying to push you off the chair. So there's constantly that struggle, because you have your own understanding, and in God's word you have your understanding and what you know you should do and what God has called you. And this person has no idea, and you're not there to carry that person on your shoulder.
No.
You can't pull someone up when they're pulling you down. The force of down is stronger than the force going up. Especially someone like me. I'm quite short. I'm like 5'2". So I've just learned. I mean, it's taken ages because sometimes it's just like, but I'm just gonna bring him to church, and God is so amazing, and he's gonna see that, and but you can't think like that. You can love them and you can tell them about Christ, but it's an inner decision, and you can't make that decision for that person. So I mean, at the point where I am in my growth with God, my growth in my relationship with Christ, I'm currently not dating non-Christian anymore, and I am gonna wait until I get my Christian guy, because I just want someone that will make me want to grow even more with Christ, someone that represents him amazingly, and someone that can be a father to my children and can guide my children into the faith as well, and value everything. And in the Word, there's so many places where God tells us and tells men how to treat a woman, and it's the right way to treat a woman, and the same as a woman, how she should treat her husband. And if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't know that, you can't get angry when they're not treating you the way you should be treated. So I just want to be with someone that knows the Word, someone that wants to treat me like God wanted me to be treated, and how He wants me to treat that person. And I think so I think.
That's great. That's amazing. Okay, Sylvia, if you just answer the same question, then I'll go back to Jake.
Okay. Yeah, what Sam said, 100% agree. I think just simply that if you claim that Jesus is such a huge part of your life, he's everything, for you to then say, I want to share my life with someone else, it's quite difficult for them to not have that kind of core element as well to their lives. If they don't view Jesus or it's almost like they are not disregarding, but they don't appreciate something that basically makes up who you are. And so already that's no basis for a relationship, I feel like. And it's purely for all the reasons that Sam said, But then again, if you're someone who, if you're not Christian and Jesus isn't such, he doesn't drive every single thing you do, then, it's not as much of a big deal. But for a Christian, I think it's really important as well, because it's not just about, it's not just about having someone who believes the same things. It's someone whose entire life, the entire foundation of their life, every single thing they do, what they work towards, how they save up, their core values, those have to be aligned to what you believe as well, because you're meant to grow together as a unit. You have your family, you fellowship, you spread the gospel, you're assets to the kingdom. So those are all things that you have to think about, like, before you get into a relationship with a non-Christian or even a Christian who isn't who hasn't really or isn't really as serious about their faith, because that's another kind of discrepancy that people forget can happen sometimes. You can have two Christians who are very different, like polar opposites on core issues. So yeah, that's what I think.
That's great. So Jake is back. So Jake, you could just continue on your thoughts on clubbing and drinking, and I basically asked Sam and Sylvia what their thoughts were on dating people that are non-Christian. So
Okay.
what do you think about that?
Okay, so back to what I was saying about, I don't know how much of what I was saying you heard because, but then, okay, so I was saying that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life of the party.
Mm.
And so the fact that we're able to celebrate anything comes from the fact that Jesus has allowed us to live, and has given us life. And so for me, when I'm going out and everything, I'm conscious of that fact. I'm conscious of Jesus. I go with Jesus because Jesus is not opposed to parties. He actually wants to be there with me. And
Mm.
so it changes everything about being there in like everything. And so being somewhere and being with people and seeing people the way God sees them and seeing even drinks the way God sees them and realizing that these are all things that God has given to you for your enjoyment, but enjoyment also, enjoying something also means like loving God and loving people. And so in whatever you do, reflecting that love for God and love for people and realizing that you're on mission wherever you are. And the same way you don't drink and go to work is the same way you don't like you don't get drunk and go to work is the same way you don't get drunk and be on mission for God. And so for me, what guides me in terms of like when I go out, who I'm talking to, who I'm drinking and everything is, all right, do enough, right, so that it will be fun to talk to God about tomorrow morning. Like if it's not that, like if it's not fun in the morning, it's not fun right now. I don't ever want to go out and wake up with regrets, and have to like take steps back and like go through that period where you're feeling bad and all that nonsense. Even though now I speed past those processes because I'm like, Jesus, I know you love me, let's move on, let's move on, let's move on. But there's always that element of guilt, and Jesus has redeemed us from guilt. So anything that causes you to feel bad or make you feel strange, maybe you should stay away from.
Mm.
um
Mm.
so it's things like that. So that guides me, I think, for me in my drinking. But I also had my drinking and my going out and everything. I do all these things, but I have my limits, and there's some things that are just not good looks. Like I tend not to want to do. I don't want, in a sense, like what Paul says, don't be the reason someone else stumbles. So like I have something personally against like doing shots because I just feel like it gets me drunk too quickly,
Mm.
and it's not a good look for somebody looking at my life. So
Mm.
somehow I try to stay away from things like that. But all those are personal stuff, and as Sylvia was saying, everybody's different, and
Mm.
so I can't prescribe a specific way that everyone should handle their liquor or their going out or whatever. But I'm saying that always invite Jesus with you and let him be your guide and let him walk with you through everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he will, like sometimes I think Christians, we are addicted to like checklists and, oh, this is my limits and these are my boundaries. But no, like flow with the Spirit and let Jesus, like let the Holy Spirit really lead you into different conversations and whatever you're doing, and realize that like whether you fail or you win, you have won, and that Jesus won the victory for you. And so it's all about learning how to do this life better, more than like, oh, today I failed and so I've fallen back, or all that. No, it's not about that. Now to the dating someone thing, I heard everything Sam said, and I agree 100%. Like if Jesus is your life, it's very like, first of all, we need to ask ourselves, what are relationships for?
Yeah.
Relationships are more than friendships. Friendships, we like, we support each other to a large degree. Relationships, you like, they're preparations for marriage, and so you are giving yourself to the person to a much larger degree than you're giving in a friendship.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be someone that can build you up to who you want to be.
Okay.
That's why some, like a lot of times when we become first saved and stuff, we take breaks from relationships. I think it's kind of healthy because you need to figure out who you want to be first, and then you need to attach yourself to someone that can help you become that person. And so if you're a serious Christian, if you have actually made Jesus Christ the Lord of your life, and you are walking the path with him, it's very difficult for me to reconcile that with like being like having an unqualified person build you up. Not to say that the person is not great, not to say the person is not amazing in so many other ways, but that person is good enough to be a friend. We meet amazing people all the time, And as I was saying, you know, like when you meet people that don't share your same faith, you don't shun them, but also like you need to know who your inner circle is, and your inner circle needs to be able to build you up. And so, yeah, just adding to what Sam said, it's very true that we should. I would recommend that you people, but also, you know, like this is my preference and this is what I believe and what I think. But people have done different things, and you know, have been led by the Spirit to do different things, and I've also come out successful. But for me, as far as I know, in terms of my relationship that I'm working towards and everything, I'm looking for someone that will be able to build me up.
Yeah, that's great. That's really awesome, guys. Before you got cut off, Jake, I was just saying that, you know, it's quite rare to have young guys come out with their faith and be so open about it, because I feel in our generation we're at a place where people feel if they talk about God too much, especially being a boy, you kind of lose bonus points with girls. So I find it quite rare when, you know, young guys are out there and they're not ashamed, they're not embarrassed to talk about their faith with Christ. And if anything, it attracts people to you because it's like, what planet are you from in this day and age? Like, it's just a really cool thing. It's really beautiful to hear your perspectives. But one last question. So you guys have all said you would prefer to date people that are Christians because it's all about someone bringing you up. And I completely agree with that. I feel like, what's that thing where they say you're like equally yoked with someone? You can't really be in a relationship with someone who doesn't think, you know, the same way that you do. You don't have the same perspectives in life, and that's going to affect like your future, like when you have kids and things like that. But I just wanted to ask something really quickly. So I'll start with Jake. When you notice that you like someone, like a girl, how do you go about chasing that person? Because I know, okay, you could be non-Christian. This has nothing to do with religion. This is just you being a boy. And obviously, you know what your beliefs are. How do you go about courting that person, you know, in a way that does not really contradict what it is that you stand for? This is just being a man in general. How do you go about that?
Yeah. First of all, the word courting is so strange to me. But that's just a different conversation. It's just like I've learned this vendetta against like Christianese, which is like Christians speaking in ways that the rest of the world can't understand. But anyway, that's just my personal battle. But in terms of like my personal way of going, you want me to give away all my skills? But anyway, pursuing a girl for me is very. I take the friend approach, but I take the friend approach with a limit. So like in the first few meetings of a girl, like me meeting a girl, I decide whether I want to date her or not. And if I want to date her, I'll hold back. If I don't want to date her, I'll just be myself entirely and just be crazy and, you know, say all the stupid things I say and do all the stupid things I do. But, you know, you have to maintain your attractiveness when you're like around somebody that you like and, you know, things like that. So I definitely like have a difference, just more cool and, you know, more like, you know, calm, and because I'm naturally really crazy. So I think the friend approach is important, and also just because I need to know what that person is, like where that person stands on certain things, I bring up some really important conversations, you know, just to gauge that, you know. And also you need to do a bit of stalking and background, you know. Check around, make sure the person is who you think they are.
Criminal check.
For the most part, because sometimes some people get shocks and surprises, and so you need to do a little background check, some CIA stuff, just to make sure that people are in order. But overall, I just think being myself, but in the coolest version of myself, but myself nonetheless, is how I like try and get with a girl. But I do long-term relationships. All my relationships have been over a year, so I think I have an addictive personality. Jesus is helping me through that. But yeah, so I haven't really been in that many relationships, but I know that every single relationship I've been in, I've used the friend approach and, you know, use the casual approach until I make her like me, and then I tell her, oh, I've liked you all along, kind of thing.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Sam and Sylvia, what do you do? I know for girls, like, when we like someone, we don't really have to do much. And for me, I know I'm not the type to chase any man, anybody. I do not chase. I do not believe girls should chase. To me, it's just unattractive. But there are some people who, I don't know, maybe really, are just really forward and out there. But what do you guys do when you like someone? Do you do things like, okay, let me give a typical example. Let's say the me of 3 years ago, if I know I'm going somewhere and this guy I like is there, I'll make sure I dress up, dress up in the most, kind of ways to get that attention. So I know that they're going to look at me. So what is it that you guys would do to not go against your faith? Like, how do you set those boundaries?
Sam, do you want to go first?
Okay. I don't know. I'm just myself all the time, I think. I mean, I'm quite goofy and I say really silly things half the time. And I mean, I don't change the way I dress. I mean, I always dress the same. I'm quite boring in that sense, I'm just like, well, what's in the wardrobe is what goes. This guy likes me and he will like me regardless. I'll whack a bit of lipstick on, whatever. But yeah, I'll make an effort. I mean, if I really like the guy, I'll just be like, oh, would you like to take a drink? I mean, I'm not making the first, move, but would you like to go and have a drink? Or would you like to come to Hillsong with me? Or, I don't know, anything cheesy, making it seem like it's them that is inviting me, but really it's me,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm quite chilled when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool. Sylvia?
Honestly, for me, I just the relationship and the only relationship I've been in ended as I decided that I wanted to become serious about my faith, and since then I haven't been in a relationship. I don't want to say I haven't liked anyone because that sounds really weird. But I would say that when I did feel like I could like someone, because it's really easy for me to like people. I don't know if it's like a girl thing. I've had to be realistic with myself from the beginning and be like, okay, Sylvia, let's just visualize, where you feel God is taking you. And do you think this person could add to that, could, be with you as you grow? Mm. And because I'm in such a time in my life where it's like it's almost like a crash course of growth. Like God is just shaping me in completely mind-blowing ways and at a really fast rate. I don't feel like a relationship is for me right now, and so because of that, I haven't. I don't feel like I'd be able to answer that question because it's just something that's not on my radar at the moment. When it happens, I'll holler at all y'all. You could probably let the world know how I respond. But yeah, I'm really weird, really goofy. I can be really awkward. So I just roll. Yeah. I just roll with it. I'm just myself. But yeah, I'm probably bad for answering that question.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's cool. I like the fact that you guys are really honest. Jake takes the friend approach. Sam is just goofy and whatever. You're just whatever.
Awkward.
Yeah, the old me would be so like my blood would be hot. I must, be the center of attention. But now I just realize it's just whatever. Like, just be yourself. Like, don't force things. And I'm a strong believer in if something is supposed to happen, it will happen. If God wants that for your life, like I strongly believe in that. So yeah, now we're just at the end of this discussion. I'm really glad that you guys came on. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, your thoughts, and I know a lot of people can learn from every single thing that you've said. You've been really great, really inspiring people. To those people who are watching this live, you can find this video on www.mademoiselleZ.blogspot.co.uk. That's my blog if you're not familiar with it. And the video will also be uploaded to my friend's blog who hosts the Roundtable Discussions, and it's just roundtablediscussion blog.com. So feel free to tune into that just in case you're not watching this live. But again, thank you guys so much for being a part of my panelists. You guys were awesome.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.